Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello.
Josh, did you know the video game Fallout 76?
The video game Fallout 76 that came out at the end of last year and is still around somehow despite, not being any good.
That's not even the craziest thing.
Wow.
One, I didn't realize that it came out at the end of 2018. Two, for the longest time, people have been wondering just what the living hell Fallout 76 even was. And Bethesda have come out and said, hey, look, we've got you, don't worry, we'll have human NPCs.
Yep.
2020. Not now, they haven't had them the whole time.
So it's been delayed because it was supposed to come out in a month or so, end of this year, but now it's been delayed until 2020.
A little bit.
Human NPCs.
Yeah, a little bit. I'll read you a nice little quote.
Please
Excuse
do.
me. I can't. The thing is everybody ill? I'm just going to quickly address that. I think all of us are ill in the office.
This entire office has just been going in cycles of illness. People have been
Jesus.
coming and going. It's a revolving door of disease.
Just leaving like a cube of germs that we sort of keep coming back into, and then we leave and we get cured and we come back and we're ill again. But the more that I hear about it online, most people seem to be ill. Let us know
Winter,
from across
isn't it, I suppose?
a variety of ponds whether you're ill. Anyway, Fallout 76. So the quote from Bethesda is that they've been hard at work on Fallout 76 this year. Tee-hee, I'm sure. Working on Fallout 76, including their biggest update yet, Wastelanders. Don't know what that is.
Scott, that's the big expansion that's supposed to be coming. That's going to make it more like Fallout. Anyway, continue.
Is it though? Is that the Battle Royale update that they're doing?
Separate.
I'll finish the quote. And they said, we're excited about how Wastelanders is coming together, but it needs more time to be the best, most polished.
You can't even get through the quote.
It needs to be polished, Josh.
Oh, wow.
They're going to polish it this time. It needs to be the best, most polished update it can be, so they're delaying its release until Q1 next year.
Look, it's easy to take the mick out of Bethesda because they've had a really bad 5 years at this point, a long time.
I'm going to say they've had a terrible generation. But
right,
whatever.
I don't fully agree with this because I thought they started out quite well, and you can, be complaining about Skyrim
I will be complaining.
on every console as much as you want. But they still got sustained success with Skyrim, and I really love Fallout 4, so that's 2 wins in my book.
Good.
But ever since then, they've just sort of shut their pants off until they've rocketed into the sky and into the sun, because everything they've done, including Fallout 76, it's just been kind of, botched. And this was their kind of big redemptive story. Wastelanders was going to be the expansion that brought pretty much everything that we wanted to see in the base release of Fallout 76 back to the game. So it does suck that it has been delayed, but is it not quite a good indication in one way, because it means they're not wanting to repeat the same mistakes of the initial launch when they just sort of farted that bad boy out and
the break it early test application.
It was a total disaster.
I mean, I'm torn, because I should say, yes, at least they're making good on the people that invested in them. At least they're going to turn it around. We say this so much now.
I know.
And I think I'm done. I think I've run out of the amount of times I can say, well, at least they made it all right. I think that it's weird, because it's obviously going to be hypocritical on my part, because I stick up for No Man's Sky. Because I really love No Man's Sky. And I actually would defend what that game was at launch or whatever. But I think that No Man's Sky, it seems to have a sense of goodwill. At least, Hello Games was like a team of 13 people back at launch, and they doubled down and they changed things around. They were obviously caught in a massive maelstrom of media expectation and hype and lies and everything else. And they really seem to try. They really seem to just knuckle down and sort it out. And from the initial update, 1 year later, they really turned that game around. And I totally think they did, even though they are still culpable to everything that happened in the run-up to launch. Bethesda should know better.
Yes.
By an absolute country mile. And there's no real excuse for turning out something as half-baked and half-arsed as Fallout 76.
Yeah.
And I like what they were going for. Sorry, but I like what they were going for. But my whole thing is just that I just have no goodwill left for them. And as much as I do love them as a studio overall, but I think they've been just all over the place this generation, with 76 being a particular Terry on a pile of poop.
It's so difficult because last generation, Bethesda were the sort of, the company that could do no wrong. I bloody loved every single game they put out. Those games defined that generation for me, and there is still some residual goodwill from that sort of, period that carries me through in hopes they can do better. But yes, there is a big distinction between this and No Man's Sky, and I don't really think it's entirely hypocritical, because only a handful of people worked on No Man's Sky, and it wasn't entirely their fault that it was, it came in under expectations, as it were. And they have striven to sort of update it and provide free updates that have transformed the game into what people wanted back at launch.
They've also been active on social media as well.
Exactly, yeah. Bethesda is a big company who has sort of just gone from one mistake to another with Fallout 76. Not only is the game itself sort of, it was bad at launch, it was just not good, but everything surrounding it has also been bad and not good, including, messing up pre-orders, messing up plastic bags.
God, I forgot about all that.
Recalling helmets because there was mold in it, stuff like that has not helped. And now that when we get to the point where, you know, this expansion has been delayed, I don't know if there's any goodwill left at all, because we talk, like I said, on this channel a lot about games that, you know, turned it around, and that is awesome. But I'm now starting to wonder whether we're giving sort of publishers and developers too much leeway. We keep saying, well, they might turn it around, but it's now a year after launch. This expansion isn't here until next year. How much time do we give them? How much can that redemptive arc make up for the game in the state that's currently in?
And plus, like, next year is when we know at least the PS5's coming. It's heavily rumored that the next Xbox is coming. So it's just weirdly, darkly hilarious that, like, these new generation systems will be coming out. Hey, ray tracing and all these new things, haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. And then Bethesda's going, we've got human NPCs, guys, anyone. So, like, you know, we're originally going to do it 2 years ago by this time. And we've delayed it until 2020, and it's just weird. And it's not like, because if you were them, obviously I see their side of it, obviously I see the coding side of it, and I like what they went for. If you watch the no-clip documentary about the creation of the game, they were like, well, why not try this other thing? We have all these assets, and we have this particular game engine. Why not try and make like an open-world MMO type thing? And that's nice. That's a nice idea. You should experiment with what you have. I'm always championing new ideas, even though it's an established template. But they just didn't give it enough time in the oven, and like, and they keep insisting on reusing the same engine over and over and over again. And they're just problems that are so easy for you to avoid. Like I said, they should know better. They're a veteran studio. They should be up alongside Rockstar and Naughty Dog as like infallible, brilliant, you know, studios that we're proud to champion. And they used to be, like I said, the last generation. I still hold up Skyrim as like arguably one of the best games of the decade. And it's just that they should know better. And so like when they're kind of just fumbling and getting it wrong, I don't know if I'd rather they just can 76. I know it has a fan base. I'd rather they just sort of like went, this is exactly our roadmap and this is exactly what we're going to do, and then we're going to take a hiatus, reassess what our priorities or whatever the hell they need to say, get out ahead of the bad press, get better on social media and just keep informing people, and then maybe take a break and come back with Starfield with a new engine and whatever.
It does feel a bit to me like they're sort of in a telltale situation. I'm sure that it's not that dire straits financially. These games have still sold really well, but from a creative standpoint, the same mistakes are cropping up game after game, and they're just sort of reaching a point now where we've got something like Fallout 76 where they overshadow what good is in there. Because there are a few, you know, flourishes of genius in Fallout 76 that you have to, you know, dig under a pile of poop to get to. But I feel like over the past generation or so, we used to forgive Bethesda for having bugs in their games because they used to be one of the only few developers who would be able to, you know, make these large RPGs that let you do whatever you want. But now they're not the only game in town. We've got games like The Witcher 3, which was, you know, polished so well, even though it did have some issues at launch.
A rocky launch, but again, turned it around.
Turned it around much more quickly than, you know, Skyrim, which suffered on the PS3 so long after launch with glitches and bugs that made it virtually unplayable. And I feel like there's just no excuse for it anymore when games are, you know, coming out that are just as ambitious and don't make the same mistakes. And it's the fact that they make the same mistakes over and over again that I do think some kind of, you know, creative reboot is in order, which is weird to say because they take a long time between projects. It's not like they're farting them out every 2 years or something.
That should have been the thing with Fallout 4. It was like you took your sweet time putting it out, and then you put out nigh on the same thing. And obviously people refer to that as Fallout 3.5. I get it, like, in a regressive sort of manner. And like I bounced right off Fallout 4. I just was like, there's not enough new here. I like the combat and everything. But like, if you're going to take time in between releases, then like a Rockstar, like a Naughty Dog, it should be a seismic event when it finally comes out. They should be the name in Western RPGs. And they kind of are by default, but it's a past legacy. It's not, they haven't maintained it. And I think that like this generation has just exemplified all the worst practices that we get from publishers, and they've just come to exemplify them as well. And it's just like, you know, if they can't nail the basic thing that we know them for, then it's just really weird. And I get that we're having a go at them for like updating their game, but like just you've kind of messed up. You've kind of done it. You've just at this point, it's a bit too little, too late.
It's because of all the baggage that comes with it. Like you said, this sort of entire generation has sort of seen developers that we once held to a high standard sort of succumb to those kind of, you know, pitfalls that used to plague the likes of Activision or EA. Like Bethesda with Fallout 76. That isn't known for its gameplay. It's known for the travesty surrounding it, and, you know,
the bin bag.
Yeah, the bin bag, and even things like, you know, introducing pay-to-win elements in the marketplace and charging for things they initially said they weren't going to charge for. So on a business point, from a business perspective, it's also been muddied and kind of, you know, anti-community. Again, from that way, like, not only is the game bad, every business decision they've made is also similarly botched, and I want to believe that Wastelanders will be good when it comes out and will turn the entire game around, but based on the precedent that's been set before, I don't believe that this will be a polished product.
No.
I want to be proven wrong, but at what point do I have to just sort of pack my blind faith that I have for these publishers that I love so dearly, and I do love them. This is the only reason why I'm so annoyed.
Same.
And just sort of be realistic about the situation.
And it's also like for Starfield, Todd Howard's already said that it's using the same engine again because the modders love it. And it's like, well, yeah. Like the thing is, Bethesda's biggest blind spot is that they still think of them. Well, I'm assuming, like if you watch the No Clip documentary, you'd watch interviews with Todd Howard. They have a really likable personality. They used to be this scrappy little PC company, this little bunch of coders, like this little coding company that could. And like Todd Howard like went up to Bethesda and like as a fan and managed to get hired and whatever else. And they have this like soul that made them lovable. It was, like I said, they were this little company that could. And like they'd have bugs and holes in their games and glitches, but they were trying, and you really felt it. And like Morrowind, Oblivion to Skyrim was this upward trajectory the whole way through in terms of scope and scale and everything else. And like that's just fallen away. Where like you see the I can't help but be cynical now, and I think that this generation has very much molded us to be cynical because of how much the vast majority of consumers have been taken advantage of. And then when someone as wholesome or formerly wholesome as Bethesda are then churning out the same half-baked toss that everyone else is, it's doubly annoying and insulting.
That's it. It's not just the fact that there's bugs there. One of my favorite games of all time is Fallout New Vegas, and that was notoriously one of the buggiest games ever when it launched. You had that dock with the spinny head and all stuff like that, but you could tell there was real heart to the game and real passion driving it, like to overcome those limitations. And that is so endearing, and that's the same kind of endearment that Bethesda used to have. But like you said, over the past generation or so, that sort of cynical kind of atmosphere is set in because of everything else they've been doing. In that sort of like lovable charm or soul, as it were, is sort of it's degrading and rotting from the inside.
Plus, as well, I mean, like that was Obsidian. Like even if you're like obviously they're about to release the Outer Worlds, and not the Outer Worlds.
Not the Outer Worlds.
They're right next to each other on the Xbox dashboard. Just infuriating. They're about to release the Outer Worlds, which I think, especially looking at the marketing for it, it was like, from the creators of Fallout New Vegas. Like Obsidian are about to pivot themselves as the company that you should have believed in instead of Bethesda, which a lot of Fallout fans prefer New Vegas overall, next to 3 or 4 anyway. And it's just really interesting because it's just like that. Like I said, it's with Bethesda, maybe it's more of like an optics problem, like the way that they don't come across as that snappy little developer that could anymore. They've kind of been mired by Fallout Shelter and Fallout 76 and the paid mod stuff and everything else. And there's a way for them to change the way that they're viewed. But when you're right next to this company that sort of came in alongside Obsidian, and went, well, this is the mentality that we're supposed to have. The little company that could. And Obsidian have done a whole bunch of Kickstarter projects and had fans on side, and they're about to do Outer Worlds, which looks and feels brilliant. I think that's just going to be like the proof in the pudding. Like, no, this is the mentality you're supposed to have when you're putting these games out, not half-baked, release it early crap.
Yeah, and I think because Bethesda's become this huge studio, Skyrim especially rocketed it to like unfathomable success. That game sold tens of millions of copies. Fallout 4 sold tens of millions of copies. I think now there's there used to be that little studio that could, but now there's a sort of hubris attached to them. Now you get moments like when Todd Howard, who seems like a really lovely, genuine guy, but he comes out on stage and he's just has the meme of it just works. And it doesn't just work, but then they don't sort of humbly kind of address that. They sort of joke it off the next time they come out on stage, and it's just, come on, guys.
It doesn't feel right. I mean, we can wrap this up and stuff, but like, they tried to hone that with the beta thing, the break it early test application, but their beta was so close to release that they weren't ever going to implement anything anyway. It was just a glorified demo, and it was just like you're very much steering into the criticism, but you're not really owning it if you're still making the same mistakes over and over again. You need to be way more transparent with the things that you're taking on board, and be way more transparent with No Clip, Danny O'Dwyer's stuff is phenomenal. Like, he's doing a great service in terms of crowdfunded documentaries that show you how games get made. But that stuff should have been front and center for the game's marketing. If you're leading with, look at what we're trying to do with Fallout, it could have been in early access for ages. They could have had a whole campaign telling people exactly what the game was going to be, and it would have gone down so much better. You would have had a whole bunch of people seeing it come together instead of paying full price for something that was broken at launch. I'm dying.
It might as well have been early access, but they just charged a full price for it.
Welcome to the new generation of consoles. But yeah, let us know what you think down in the comments below of Fallout 76 and the state of Bethesda this generation, and what you expect to see from them going forward. For now, though, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.